What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another episode of Welcome to the Future. And on this week, we are on episode 8. On today's episode, we have a cannabis legend with us. But before we get into his intro, I have to introduce my co-host for today's episode. He is our co-founder and our president. Mr. Ben Arnett is sitting in with us today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's clap it up a little bit. You know, I do my claps every episode when we have a special guest. But without further ado, we have a cannabis legend. This guy is wise beyond his existence here on Earth, and I hope you guys will enjoy when you hear this episode. But we have none other than John Bays of Green Bodhi out of Eugene, Oregon. Sir, thank you for being with us. Nice. It's a pleasure to have you with us, man.
That's quite a pleasure. Quite a pleasure. Quite an honor, really.
Good.
You know,
Good.
Really psyched. You know.
How long have you been in Vegas?
We got here yesterday.
Okay.
So
nice.
Jumped right into it. Had a fun night last night. Went out with some friends and
nice.
Yeah.
Got to kick it off the Vegas way first day.
Yeah, it's pretty Vegas last night.
Wasn't late. So
right,
yeah,
that's true.
You know,
that's true. We get some people that come to visit us and they start going out the night before, and it goes downhill when they go out the night before on the first day. We don't really see him until like Friday, so he is one of one to show his face the next day and before noon. So this is pretty impressive. We appreciate it.
I was out till like, I don't know. I think we got back around 4 a.m. or so.
Oh, so that's just a few hours ago. Okay.
Yeah, no, we stayed up till, I don't know, 5 or 6, and then I woke up.
That was when my alarm was going off to come here. To get here early.
He texted me. He texted me. He's like, you know, I sent him some pictures from what we were doing. He's all, ha. You know, I got that. I was like, should I send him some videos?
Let me just show him a little bit of what we got going on.
It was fun times.
Well, let's hop right into it, man. I know, of course, most people want to know Green Bodhi. Where'd the name come from? Let's start there.
Yeah, that's an easy one, I guess. So I went to Peru to kind of seek out some information. I was told from elder in the community that, you know, I'd find my first teacher there and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, so I followed that intuition and went there and, you know, went to the first Amazonian Shamanic Conference in Iquitos. There, you know, they had probably 50 shamans from all over the Amazon basin and, you know, a lot of famous ones. And I met my teacher, my first teacher there. At the time, we were just, you know, friends, whatever, but Armando Sade Tupac Huaracocha is what he goes by. But he's kind of like crazy wisdom, not shaman, cactus guy, utilizing, you know, Andean plant wisdoms, quantum physics, Buddhist philosophy to kind of, you know, bring our awareness level to our potential instead of, you know, limiting it by, you know, views or whatever position, stagnant states of mind. So kind of trying to use the full package to eliminate those things, right? The Path of Poisons was one of his main teachings, really, which is basically the wisdom plants, you know, what they induce in our body physiologically, mentally, esoterically, in all types of ways. It really comes from a poison-like response, you know? So it's our body reacting to, you know, whatever chemicals, whatever entheogens are. And then there's more to it that we can't really see, you know, the esoteric part that we all experience, feel, understand, but the reality is most of us mask it with other things, so it's limited. And even if your diet, your health, your lifestyle isn't at a maximum potential, you for sure won't be either, you know? So in that context, utilizing these sacred plants to kind of delineate the ego, the pride aspects of mind, and re-impute information that's pure, organic, wholesome truth, not, you know, illusory types of perspectives that are based off of self-gratification, say, you know? So really exposing our inner workings of our mind with the plants, that's what spawned this Green Bodhi. But then you take it further, you have Bodhi. You know, people are like, oh, what's that mean? Enlightenment, awareness, whatever. Well, really, it does mean enlightenment to some degree, but if you take it further, in Tibetan, it's Jungjup. And Jung is purification of all defilements. And Jup is omniscient of ultimate and relative reality simultaneously. So, you know, that's the true expansiveness of what this enlightenment means, really. You know, infinite altruism and unsurpassable wisdom combined in a really, you know, pure, altruistically oriented, bodhicitta mind state to where we can do something really what our potential's meant for. So green, Bodhi.
Nice. That's how it came about. Okay, I'll take that. That's interesting. That's a good backstory for that, because I know a lot of people wonder, like, Bodhi, green Bodhi, where'd it come from? So knowing that you started as a young adult when you got into your esoteric studies, how did that lead you to getting to Bodhi? So I know we got to Bodhi, but what was that process like as a child, as a young kid, experimenting, finding yourself, that self-discovery phase? What was that like?
I was kind of a freak when I was a kid, you know, ADHD, OCD kind of, kid, that high energy, hard to contain. So being half Korean, half white, moving every 2 years, father in the military, it's like, you realize how not a part of things you are, You make friends, you leave, you make new friends, you leave, bullies everywhere you go. So then you're like, oh, I just want to be a part of something. But all in my mind the whole time, really, like, I wanted to do something special. I wanted to help the world. I wasn't here to, like, just take, But, in that earlier lifestyle, my dad being in the military, I had some Christian influence when I was younger. So, from when I was in my, mid-teens, I wanted to be a youth pastor, wanted to kind of go that direction, had some really special experiences happen in that kind of setting, and got really judged by my church, and really was very, plus I was that kid that didn't want to follow the rules either, I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to do these things? Oh,
you gotta go do it.
I'm gonna do those things.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, oh, where's the rule book? Okay, I gotta break all these rules and figure out what, so it's funny, even my friend, he's a high-level Tonka painter, one of the greatest artists in really, like, this current age, and I said, oh, Pema, I said, really, if there's rules, I kind of want to break them. He's like, oh, that makes you a good Buddhist, bro. Well, because, the Buddha said, he's like, oh, he didn't say, believe everything I say, whatever. He's like, oh, don't believe what I say. Actually, investigate what I say. And just as a goldsmith tests gold through rubbing, burning, and cutting, test everything I've said with extreme scrutiny. And if it's truthful and works for you, adopt it. If not, discard it. So it's like, when you're that massive investigation through logic, it's really clutch, So that my mind was really attracted to that style, and when I couldn't find the answers through logic and through that analytical deduction and critical thinking and things I could prove truthfully, it just didn't work, So then taking that understanding, because even in the Bible, you look at what Jesus is saying, it's all altruism, What's the system's done to show its expression is its thing, But what Jesus was teaching was altruism, and even, from non-judgment, forgiveness, all these things. Oh, instead of focusing on the splinter in your brother's eye, examine the plank in your own.
Yeah.
I'm like, did we forget that one?
Right, yeah. Yeah, same. Instead of sweeping around in front of my front door, sweep in front of yours first. Got dirt of your own piling up.
Good. So,
yeah.
So then, I was really seeking the truth. So I was doing a lot of study and different kind of esoteric stuff, hermetic stuff, kind of looking at what the Mason studied, what the different mystery schools are. I was just like fucking looking for something that I can do what these guys did.
Right.
Like, give me the path and the tools to be like this. I can't do this, oh, have faith, it's all good shit, I gotta have the tools so I can realize I'm flawed and where my flaws are, change them and become different, because I realized the reality is that's all we got. Right. And for this world, there's nothing we can do more to change the evolution of humanity than stop the negative karmas of both our mother and father, that they weren't able to conquer their ignorances, and then put all the energy of their wisdoms to conquer those ignorances. I mean, I don't know any other thing I can do for this planet than that thing. Sure. And then raise a child that's gonna do even 10 times better than what I did.
That's the goal, right?
I mean, I don't know any other thing really right now.
Call it seed planting. I mean, obviously looking at cannabis and growing, it all starts with the seed, you know? So if you can start with one small little micro decision of improvement that leads to a better decision, and slowly but surely everything around you, you know, changes. Which takes me to my next question. In understanding your influence on those closest to you, right? Going through the process of self-discovery, relearning yourself, removing ego. How were you able to incorporate unity amongst your family and friends, and also oneness with those that you do business with?
Dude, I'm a freak. It's really hard, you know?
Yeah.
I'm really hard to deal with. I'm really hard to work with. I'm really, you know, my attention to detail is quite high, so I'm noticing everything, and that's hard for people that are maybe not perfectionists.
It's kind of used to floating under the radar.
So to utilize that for my own self, because really what's intentional horticulture is about cultivating this plant and the relationship of this plant, what you need to do to bring this to the potential, then taking all that model and putting it to your life and every single thing you do. You know, intentional horticulture is really not about horticulture. It's about creating more awareness in your mind through something that we're like really attached to.
Right.
You know, we love this plant. We'll do anything for this plant. The whole planet's like, So like using that sweetness to kind of, not say trick, but to transform.
Sure. Got to get the sweet before the bitter. If you gave bitter first, you would never take it. You know, so you have to put a little bit of sweet on
breast milk ain't salty and bitter, bro.
Right. Sure.
I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I tasted it once and I was like, wow, holy shit, it's like a latte. No wonder, you know? And then really the reality is that's where you get that first attraction. Sweet, oxytocin, love. Those are like your trifecta as survival in the beginning, you know? Yeah. So, you know, there's something that's beyond all this, and that's what we're trying to show here, you know?
So when you speak in intentional horticulture, right, what are the first three words that come to mind?
I mean, intention, altruism, wisdom. Those really are the three things to set it off, because, you know, you have to have what you're doing and why you're doing it. You have to have the intention to bring fruit. Meaning you have to have the beginning, which doesn't even start with an action. It starts with a thought, a wish, a desire, you know, because human realm is actually the desire realm. Right, for sure. So we can desire for bad, desire for good. I mean, you see, like when you read all the text, spiritual text, you know, where's this Lucifer devil at? I haven't seen it outside of a man. I just haven't yet, you know. And when you read all the text, you're like, they cast him down to earth with this. You're like, oh. And then when I look around and you see who's the bad guy, I mean, I haven't seen no dolphin doing weirdo stuff, you know?
They're doing this.
I don't know, man. Maybe you watch the Discovery Channel.
Well, I mean, you know. But when you compare it to a human, you're like, oh, that's super tame.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, so now the reality is with the intentional horticulture aspect and what it brings and what we're trying to bring, it's really what we all want. I mean, we all want to be a part of something good, and we all want to do what we think is best for reality. You know, most people, even bad people, they're doing what they think is best for them and their surroundings. Absolutely. Like, even bad people. The reason they're doing that shit because they think they're like gonna save the fucking day, you know? And you're like, dude, you're crazy.
Well, it's everyone's perspective, right? Like a cat's a monster to a mouse. You know, everyone's the hero in their own story. So it's like understanding the why of what you're doing kind of helps you work backwards. Like every time I talk to John, you know, it's not just about his cultivation or his seed production, or he's only looking at, you know, what genetics he's about to cross. He's like, yo, did you see the wells? Hey, we're doing this. I'm going on this trip. We're going to Peru to get, you know, on the spiritual trip. And it's like, it's always about the why. Or, you know, we're over here at the monastery. We're doing, you know, we just opened up this library. It's always about his why. He actually puts so much more focus into everything else other than the business side. Like it's hilarious. He's like, yeah, the weed's good. I'm like, That's like the best, but he spends more time focused on the wells and doing his spiritual trips. And then what was the library that you just opened up?
Well, like we have a project we're working with Namgyal Monastery, and it's His Holiness the Dalai Lama's Library and Learning Center. Okay. So it's his only seat in North America is in Ithaca, where Dukor Choling, which is Namgyal Monastery's only seat, and that's where the Library and Learning Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama is going to be, where they're going to house all the relics, all his teachings. It'll be a great learning center with all information, so many great texts, the whole Kangyur Tengyur of the, all the Buddhist teachings and all the commentaries, very sacred, lots of things, very special, So this is a project my teacher, dreamed of and envisioned, and now it's actually happening, and it's, going to be quite a global thing that's huge. So it's fuck, to just even be a part of it, I'm like, whoa, dude. Someone like me, really, dude? This is some past life thing, because sure. I didn't do anything cool this life that,
No, you did, though. Your journey is very specific. I mean, the end result shows you, like Ben said, looking at the end result and then working backwards, you can see how your why led you, to where you are.
Well, and that's where we get to when we go to the other two aspects of, altruism or bodhicitta and wisdom, So the reality is how do we do this compassion thing? It's fucking hard, Meaning, what is compassion? Oh, it's the wish for another to be free of suffering, right? So, but then we have this fruitional aspect too. We have this intentional aspect that's aspirational. Then we have the fruitional aspect where it actually comes to fruition and happens. Most of our practice is in this aspirational aspect. Very hard to actually relieve another of suffering, So how do we do that when we really look at it? Because you see how it is in the Western society. People do one good thing and they're like, fuck yeah, bro. Check my shit,
Put this on Instagram.
I got this,
On the back,
I got this. I even talked to my teacher. I was like, I feel so weird. He's all, no, dude, you have to show right now because what you're doing is real, and you show that inspires people, whatever, because, even my son, he memorized 37 practices of a bodhisattva, which is, quite expansive, quite deep. Each verse is 4 lines. It's very, very grand, So anyway, memorized it and did it on video in His Holiness Monastery. So sent it to our teacher, his Chosang and everything. And, he's like, oh, it's so cool. All the Tibetans are hitting me up saying, oh, wow, Bodhi's doing this, because they're very inspired by that thing.
When it's building awareness too, right? It's not just
it's
a show and tell thing. You're doing it because you're able to, it just maximizes your reach. It's like a megaphone for what you're doing, and then it brings people who are also doing similar stuff or have interest in getting involved. They have immediate access to them, so it's pretty cool because that's what he preaches more than a lot of the other stuff.
And that's where it really comes down to. It's everything we do should be like this. It's not like, oh yeah, the weed's like this or the whatever, If everything we're doing is in that potential, well, we're going to give our all. So then, what are we trying to do, this compassion thing? Well, then we have to be selfless somewhat, right? So then we have to deal with this John, guy. This thing that wants to be all special, take control, make everything real, make everything, it's like with any emotion, right? It has a lifespan of about 30 seconds. And then the brain starts recreating the story of why, what, where, when, how, makes this whole trip happen, right? And then you believe it. Then you get your friend around you to confirm it, and then your lady to confirm it again. And then next thing you know, you're rocking this dream and everyone's down, Your whole codependent family's like, gotcha, bro, fucking, man, dude, get this. You're right. Okay. So we all go through that. So really when we have this wisdom that realizes the selfless nature of things, it can delineate that view and stagnant perspective that's going to make a story on something where it's actually unnecessary. They stay in a flow state mind with aware high level activity. Your brain regeneration is tenfold or something like that. So if you can create neurogenesis just from being in flow state and doing high level activity, it's shouldn't we be doing that all the time, right? Or at least trying, back to the plants of this, you know, whether it be lazy or not, self-inducing flow state that it can bring to us, you know? So when we bring all this intention to this carrier, wisdom plant, all these trichomes, little wax-covered blessing pill of medicine, when it's combined with all our intention of all these good-hearted people growing it, everyone you train, everyone, that this whole momentum comes through, then it's like, maybe that's why when people smoke, I don't know what it is about your herb, dude, I just fucking feel better, you know? I was like, I hear you, you know? I feel good too when I smoke it, and I'm hyped you can see it and feel it.
It's one quote that I want to mention, not to cut you off, just so I don't miss this part, because it's really fitting. Actually, two quotes. On your site, you listed, by developing deeper understanding and feeling, awareness, and motivation, our horticulture experience becomes more rich and meaningful. So that ties back to the first thing of the self-work and looking inside. Then the second one was, intentional horticulture isn't just about growing the best weed to benefit others. It's about the intention of growing yourself while growing the best weed to benefit others too. So that just shows that it's a dual journey. They have to happen simultaneously in order for them both to produce the result of what we get today.
For sure, you know, like there has to be an experiencer to the action, right? And the actor to act it, for then there to be the collective agreement that it happened, right? Like, I can say whatever I think or want or did, but if nobody saw it, you know? I mean, but we can go back then to does the tree make a sound if it falls in the woods? Yes. If you're contemplating that question,
ask the squirrel that was living in the tree.
You know? Anyhow, it's like, that was 40 years ago, bro. We're like quantum physics now, you know, non-locality. It's like, it's evolved, you know? And so that evolution happens through there not being a stagnation, there being an ability to evolve, to flow, to be impermanent and really be real with that by not, I have to think this way, I have to believe this way, I have to it's got to be this way. No, maybe it doesn't have to be anyway. Maybe you can be free of any way, and then you can really be rocking. It's like when you're surfing, if you're thinking of things, it's obvious. But when you're in the flow and you're gonna hit the lip, and you're gonna do whatever, it happens almost on its own because you visualized, you did it so many times, and then bam, it happens. You're like, fuck, I can surf. Wow.
It's another one that I want to mention that takes me to the second question, well, the actual question. You said bringing in a methodology based in the integration of compassion and wisdom with a high level of horticulture techniques and organic nutrients were devoted to awakening your garden. So I would ask you, what has been your proudest moment of awakening one's garden that you can recall?
I don't know, man. The whole proud thing, it's that's a weird thing, you know?
Well, the most reflective moment that causes you to go back and say, man, I want to do that again. Or let's this experience is for somebody else. What would be that moment? Is it bringing someone into the fold and educating them and their life change?
Really the times that people have, told me their kids don't have seizures anymore or other people tell me they have brain tumors the size of ping pong balls, and within 5 weeks the medicine we give them destroys it, and their doctors are blown away. And from those type of things, those are the real things, all the steps it took to be at the feet of His Holiness multiple times, have him name my son, all these things. It's those moments when you get to see who you are and who you were, it's those kind of things will bring the feelings and tears and all the real shit, that that you only get from certain aspects in life. You don't get from suffering, you get from someone telling you, oh, you fucking changed my life, you saved my life, And
that changes you because your pursuit becomes different. Of course, data, I kind of look at that as data, success stories, testimonials. Those are the things that kind of keep the gas in the car, to let you know your work isn't in vain. The suffering, the discovery you went through it lets
right,
you know
all the
that it's
hard work
gift.
that you just went through, all the times you might have been, man,
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Or
Telling yourself
the
and
results
someone-
that you may not have seen for a long time. Like you knew it was a beneficial work, but you may not have seen the results instantaneously. So to see it long term and to know the work that you've done, that's a massive mission.
Yeah, someone comes up and tells you that, you're probably like,
Yeah,
you know,
that
immediately
just
worth
changes.
Well, I mean, this whole thing really, I did this whole Green Bodhi thing to show that there's still a steward in this cannabis community. Straight. That there's still someone down to like not take money over their integrity, like to the fucking death, you know? Because I don't see it anywhere else, you know? That's just my perspective. I see a lot of people chasing dollars, chasing whatever ego dream they want, and I don't see them chasing altruism. I don't see them chasing like this plant's potential to spread that mass international. I don't see it, man. I don't see people selling organics as the way. And we all know it's the way, because when you go to the store, you're not like, hey, dude, can I get that one apple that's sprayed with that one wax and that other, you know, myclobutanol or whatever, you know, and can I get that one? You know, like, where's the Eagle 20 at, yo? I want the Eagle 20 broccoli, bro. I want the broccoli grown with this blue salt and this fucking pink salt.
in Miracle Grow.
You know? Let's make some Smurf piss cocktail and, like, I want to eat that shit.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, no offense, everything that I've given my plants, I'm not scared of getting it in my mouth, even though it's like, you know,
Tastes terrible. but it doesn't
organic
kill you.
things.
Right.
But I'm still not scared of getting it in my mouth versus, like, you know, I get some of that, like, Smurf blood in my mouth. I'm like, you know, hazmat. You know, you're like, what? It's like, stuff's getting weird, you know? So we got to think of, you know, dependent origination, really. We got to think of causal nature. We got to think of all the links of conditions of here to here. And is some money intended, mids grown, salt grown, all for whatever yield, money, profit, that gonna make you feel heady? I mean, it wasn't accepted in Eugene, ever, never. You know, not for like decades, you know, not from when in the late 90s, you know, to early 80s to early 2000 to now. Now it's like, oh, but still, if you look, what's respected there is organics. Why we have, that's what there is there. That's what the community's based on. That's what the farms are based on. That's what we understand the survival of our planet's based on. And everyone talks about this green, this, that, and the other, while they like, oh yeah, man, more salt, dude, more of the rock wool, yeah, bro, we pump it, dude, however many grams per square foot crushing. You know, it's like, wow, dude, you don't care about the environment, huh?
You couldn't care doing it that way.
I mean, give me the logic where you care.
Right. Or let me see it. Even
And
if I
it's
understand
okay
the
if it's all
logic.
for money.
Right.
That's sick. Business,
Right.
whatever. That's
Right.
your prerogative.
That's what
No
it
problem. But don't pretend it's for the plant and for the people and for the planet and for any other reason than you're like Lamborghini or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, why not just be real? And then it's cool.
Right. Yeah,
Then it's cool.
Right.
We have a
That's
fucking
good.
sports car. Don't matter. It's fucking sick, you know? Because they're fast, they're fun. It's like, no problem.
Right.
Well, with the way of the world too, I mean, everything's going up, and the only thing that's not as it relates to a grow is you got obviously your inputs, and if salts are going up 30, 40, 60%, your cost per pound is going to go up immensely, while the guy who's growing organically now can have his soil there for years, mending and tending it right, and his cost per pound is literally just going down every year because he doesn't have to buy any new medium. So I mean, there's so many benefits to doing it right if you can do it right, but there's just so few that know how to do it right. I mean, it's like I mean, I don't know if I can count on one hand how many are absolutely crushing, especially at a large scale. It's extremely hard.
Well, to have a simple SOP that's organic takes a lot of time to have developed, and you have to have understanding of your nutrient supply chains and all this kind of things, which we're discovering now with kind of the conflicts globally and stuff, when they're like, oh, 70% of calcium nitrate comes out of Ukraine and Russia. 70%. Ammonium nitrate, potassium nitrate, these kind of things that most of these people don't want to talk about. It's like, hey, you know, that's what all these salt nutrients are made of, right? Or they blend different pharmaceutical salts that all come from you know, it's cool, but there's going to be huge supply issues when we reuse our soil for years, you know, like even in containers, just keep rebooting it. No big deal. Worms like going crazy. And when you think about what we're trying to mimic, you just mimic your gut, you know, the flora fauna in your gut, the enzymes in your gut. And when you look at that internal mirror of like how soil works, how things work, it all works the same, really, you know? So there's no like magic to it. You just got to know how things work.
Just got to know. Well, let me ask this. How would you say that organics has changed the cannabis industry as far as cultivating quality flower? How would you say that it's impacted the industry?
Dude, oh man, it's hard. It started the industry. So how it impacted it?
Essentially, it started it, but it kind of...
Well, it started it, and then everyone's like, I got money, but the only reason I got money is if you can show me this profit margin that works for all these guys that don't know anything about cannabis, you know? Don't you want to make them all your money and sell out to these guys, dude? Yeah, look at how cool you'll be. When that went, instead of being like, hey, dude, let's do this for the people, you know? Let's do this for the planet. Let's like show humans can steward something, like actually, instead of spoil it.
Making it worse.
I mean,
touch it and leave it worse.
We're the masters at being a parasite on a organ.
Leave it worse than how it was when you found it. Actually.
I just don't see anything more dirty than a human, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad, you know, because we're supposed to be the smart ones here, right?
Or should be. How have you been able to educate people on organics? What has been one of your focuses with explaining the importance and the value, and since it started the industry, getting back to that, returning to that?
It's been really difficult because people don't see enough profit, and they're like, well, if it takes more to trim your herb, even to process the herb, to, you know, the nutrients are more, but they don't see the other factors in it. They just see, oh, if this costs this much and you get this much, then this doesn't work. You're like, but what about all this stuff over here, you know? That we like change the world and do all this stuff, show an example, like lead the way, be the light, all that stuff. That's just like, that doesn't matter, huh? Oh, well, I mean, for me, I gotta be with people that matters, you know? Because otherwise I'll be like, sadly judging them.
Sure. Looking around like, ooh,
and judging myself, then
why am I here?
And then being like, am I that?
Right.
These people aren't seeing the potential and how we can evolve together and how we can do this together. So, you know, now it's like, it's a really slim crew now that all wants to put humanity over profit.
Well, and I think you said it best, Leo. You were like, you know, when do you start having the mindset of let's leave this place in better condition than we got it? And it starts with obviously all the big companies and people in general, whatever. But, you know, if you can start putting it as a mindset like John, where every day he's obviously running his business, Green Bodhi, but he's doing everything in Green Bodhi to push the wells, the library, and like 10 other things that he does humanitarian wise. So it's like, you know, and it starts with the why, or what do you want to fix? You're not going to be able to fix everything. So pick it. Do you want to do ocean conservation? Do you want to do, you know, feeding the hungry, the veterans? I mean, pick a handful, pick 3, and then, you know, again, work backwards on the why, and then start figuring out how you can get involved, whether it be capital or your time or resources, education, knowledge. There's a ton of ways you can actually be supportive to any of those causes you like, other than just going and liking some page on Instagram and sharing and be like, well, did my good deed for the day. Shared the page from the project, Ocean. You're like, no, you didn't save any turtles today.
I feel like that's
find a way to actually get involved that's beyond just a fucking like or a click.
I feel like that's tied to, though, like the journey of self, though, because when you start working on yourself, you find room for improvement with everything else. Instead of leaving it as it is, it's like not judging you or telling you can be better because I'm better. You're like, you know what, I'm really working on myself. Maybe we can work on it together, because you start seeing room for improvement for everybody. It makes you more gracious. It makes you more understanding. And the awareness that you spoke of earlier, you learn to consider other people too. So instead of judging, you consider, but as you create things to benefit people, you think of them when you're creating things. For sure. You're thinking of their health, you're thinking of their wellness, you're thinking of their conscience. So it all starts, like you said, you can make the world a better place, or you can make it better than how you found it, but you have to start
Well, and like John said, there's so few actually doing it, but there are guys out there trying to do it. Whether it be whatever, like you said, ocean conservation, Last Prisoner Project, Steve D'Angelo. That's a super dude. That guy, like he sets the bar, right? Like he did such a good job on that.
Dude, he's such a nice guy too. I don't give a shit what anyone says about him. He is like the kindest guy. So cool. He's like devoted his life to herb in a way that like all of us could wish we could do, and really like put your ass on the line like that. Mm-hmm. Like ride or die to the max, Like it's like he's all prison, feds, IRS, whatever. Like
take some on. You're right. Just go.
But someone has to do the work. Like someone has to till the land. Someone has to plow the land in order for the people after you to come.
But you can't do it alone. But you can use guys like that, though. Reach out to Last Prisoner Project. Reach out to the Weed for Warriors, or Wells for Dharma. There's a lot of ways to get involved beyond just a couple of likes. And
for sure,
everyone. If you go ask people if they need help with their project or their organization, they're not going to turn you away. So there's something you can probably do.
And you've even been very instrumental in legislation back in Oregon, from the state to from the local laws to state to federal, and how they vary. But what motivated you to be so vocal back home? Obviously, being a young kid starting in cannabis and psychedelics, you saw the limits as a child, and then getting older as an adult. What was the?
I was told about 20 years ago that cannabis was going to go legal and to start branding and get it together from someone that was, had the information. So I started doing that, and so really helping the state was something. I was doing a lot of work in California and had some, people tried to scout me to do some projects. Michael Bacchus for Montel Williams, they wanted me to do that project with them, working with their doctorate chemist. And even when he said, I'm like, dude, why do you want someone like me, bro? I don't know anything.
Why not you? That's the question.
He's all, bro, we got our doctorate chemist,
right?
And we got you, and we put that together. That was going to make something cool. And I said, okay, science, intuition, combo, whatever, So then I was like, and then a lot of stuff in California started happening, whatever. And I'm like, I think I need to help my state, I need to help my home, and I think that'll help with some branding aspects, and I'll just do it as much time and whatever for free, and just do what I can to help, and really like do what I can, and really stand strong for the people and for the plant. And even on the last Rules Advisory Committee for the rec, labeling, testing, limits and stuff like that, I was the main grower advisor for the state. So I was basically debating with Shannon O'Fallon, the head attorney for Department of Justice, Andre Russo, the head of Oregon Health Authority, Jesse Sweet, who was heading OLCC at the time for the thing, and debating in them why we needed certain laws, certain rules, certain freedoms, so we can do what we needed to do, and pushing strong for things like unlimited plant count was one of the things that I got had a lot of responsibility for, so I was kind of psyched on that, from 100 plant federal prosecution limit to like unlimited plant count. So I was kind of did certain things like that. I worked with Senator Floyd Przansky. I was kind of one of his confidants in the industry and kind of helped him understand what's happening from a grassroots level, and he utilized me to testify for him for the state a couple times, and get some bills, veered that way, because I was a pretty big voice, and I was basically opposing a foundation that I had helped found. So it was very interesting, how they work it. I come out the back room, I'm like, oh, everyone I know is here.
Right, it's you.
And you guys are on the stand. Okay, I guess I'll get on the stand and tell my point of view, which is generally for more freedoms for the people and for less control, less taxes, less law, less all that stuff, because I'm kind of like, I don't like that kind of stuff, especially with something like a plant.
It speaks to the rebel in you earlier when you were like, okay, these are all the rules. Okay, I'm going to do everything but that. So it's almost kind of cool to see the adult you take that and spin it into activism and representation for people that may not have the means or the opportunities to go and be a voice for the people. That's incredible.
It was really fun too, because I'd go there, these pretty big meetings, they're all filmed, and like all the communities there, because they have their 30 minutes at the end where the state let's hear the public comments. Well, and you're like, okie dokie, you know.
You got the few people that come every time there's a meeting, you're like, oh, here he goes.
Dude, so it's like, and these meetings were like big ones, you know, because they had like, you know, the head of pharmacology, the head, you know, like all these kind of things. So I'd go like, you know, I'd roll a big fat joint, like rosin all up in it, smoke it all the way there, and, you know, like roast the thing in there, coming like smoke off me. I'll sit right next to like Shannon O'Fallon, she's like DOJ attorney, just to like, you know, just to, cause like, you know, I was kind of a pain in the ass in school and stuff in that way too. You know, sleeping. Oh, come up here and do this problem. Oh, you're like, oh yeah. Whoa. You know,
Did you get him right? Did you get him right or no?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's pretty easy, bro. School is kind of college school. It's not meant for. It's, you know, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama puts it like very funny. You know, he's all, oh, the difference of a Buddhist doctorate. You know, they call it a Geshe Larimpa, which usually takes 30 to 40 years of really high-level study, memorizing like multi-100 plus page text, you know, like it's like comparing, if you compare that to a like Western doctorate, it'd be like comparing kindergartner to a college graduate, you know. He's like the amount of, you know, because you can be like, okay, what this text verse, you know, 212, what is it? And they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Spit it off, you know. You know, like my teacher memorized Kalachakra Tantra, which is, you know, 300 pages or so, whatever, recited it in front of the council of Namgyal Monastery in under 2 hours without missing one syllable, you know? And it's not like it's like low stress, you know? Right. It's like all the council, you know, like all the dudes running for the Dalai Lama, you know? All sitting there, you make them all tea, offer them tea, put the big text down. It's like a brick like this big, you know? Boom, wrapped up. And then you sit there, just go for it, you know? And it's like fucking magic, bro. You know, his teacher was the 100th Ganden Tripa, and who was in Tibetan history one of like the greatest masters, they say, you know. He stayed in this Jutum practice where it's after death meditation, which was, you know, stayed for 3 weeks without any brain activity, blood pressure, or heartbeat, but heart stays hot like you put a rock in the sun. And they had Emory University Mind and Life Association, under the request of the Dalai Lama, come hook them up and track it all. On the 19th day after being flatlined, huge spikes in brain activity, you know? So this is like tracked scientifically, you know? So this is the kind of, you know, level these guys are at. And, you know, this great master, Lepson Nima, he, you know, my teacher was, you know, feeling quite proud, you know. One day he memorized the whole page, which was 12 verses, 48 lines, you know. And he was like, oh, Rinpoche, I memorized this whole page. And he's all, oh, didn't praise him at all, nothing, you know. But then, so when he was writing the, you know, like 30, 40 years later, you know, or 30 years later, writing the biography, you know, for his teacher as he's dying, and, you know, he's oh, this one retreat, I went to retreat for 2 weeks, I was so happy, you know. I memorized these 2 texts, you know, and in Western textbook, it would be like 230, 40 pages, you know. He memorized in 2 weeks, you know. So this is the kind of like mental capacity these guys are at, you know. It's like it's different, you know. So, you know, when you get back to what it means to have a virtuous mind, the qualities show.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It also shows, I meant to say this earlier when you were talking about organics and you being able to consume. Obviously it's not favorable or what you prefer, but you're still able to digest it. It made me think of what comes in pure comes out pure. You know, if you start with the foundation of what you consume is purity and it's things of good and things of positivity, you naturally have the inclination to return that back because that's what comes out of you. You know,
well, it's our potential.
Shit, obviously shit comes out regardless, but you know, shit your shit. But in the instance, if we're speaking from a hypothetical point, you know, if you read positivity, you'll start giving positivity because that's what you're consuming. So you become your consumption. For sure. You know, tying this to Fos, right? So let's skip a little bit ahead here. Where did the combination of Fos, Green Bodhi, you know, your mission to improve the lives of others and then lives of plants, our mission to improve the lives of cultivators and their business and their facilities. How did this relationship come about?
Oh, that's an interesting topic. Basically, you know, I was working with another lighting company and I'd heard wind of Fos. Oh, you know, I was like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah, we actually met in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard wind of that, you know. So then, and then we met at a friend's spot. Met Ben and really like hit it off vibe wise. And then there were some things going on Instagram and, you know, and concerning of a certain troll, and, you know, I don't like that. I don't like bullies, you know. So I was like, all my whole life I dealt with bullies. So when I was, you know, in my late teens and early 20s, like whenever there was a bully with any of the crew, I was scrapping, you know.
You, I want you. Come here.
Oh, you're gonna be that guy?
Yeah.
Well, this guy's not that guy, but I'm that guy.
Come see me really quick.
Then I started realizing I was like, oh, I'm kind of being a bully, you know, because those big bully guys that are a lot of talk, that's about all they are. And at a certain point, you realize that it doesn't feel fair anymore, so you change your ways.
They shrink very quickly when the scores are real. There's like,
you know, things get different. So anyway, that being said, this person just, you know, was deciding to talk a lot of nonsense and just, you know,
Nonsense,
you take
non-science.
hearsay and
Nonsense,
hearsay
non-science. I love that.
and make your perspective of the hearsay, and then you make a story pretending it's truth on hearsay, and you have no idea of any of it. So, you know, I saw that pretty quickly. So I'm kind of like, I like to instigate and be a troll myself.
It's like, that's
We'll
the
just
word
use
for it.
logic, and then and that's kind of what spurred this show me your jar stuff, you know? So this guy, Poetry Nelson, you know, he like, you know, we were commenting each other and talking this, that, and the other. I said, dude, all you got to do is bring a jar of your weed to the party, of your space nerd grown, you know, salt pellet herb, and we'll bring we'll bring some herb grown with nature,
right.
you know, the nature,
Right.
and we'll have everyone there at the party see what's up, you know. So then MJ BizCon comes around, Vegas, and just so happens we're all at the same party together, and a lot of popular people are there, very popular party. So, you know, hey, what's up, bro? Hey, yeah. Okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Bust out all the jars. Me and my partner start rolling joints up, hash joints. Everyone's like, you know, no one's pulling out the weed. Everyone's like, oh, what, you do this? This is organic? Yeah, bro. You can do this at scale? I mean, it's pretty easy, you know, because...
It sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, all beef was smashed that weekend. You know, like truly, like all good vibes moving forward. Like everyone was just like, yeah, okay, that was silly.
Yeah, no, people apologized, and that's literally where the "show me your jar" thing came from.
Show me your jar, yeah.
And so that's why, really, in the end, it's like all this. Oh man, have you seen these test scores? Have you seen this, that, and the other? Let me see the jar. Well, here's some gummies. Like what, dude? I'm not 60. I don't eat gummies, you know? Like, it's like, I smoke weed, you know? Like, I smoke joints, you know? Like, I smoke hash. I smoke weed. Because, why? Well, because someone's got to show you how it's done, it seems like. Because, like, what are we doing? It's all this beautiful weed.
Dad thing
I'm like, what?
Just give it here. Someone's going to show you how to do it.
Let me roll a joint. No, it's like, no.
Give me those goddamn seeds.
Give me those seeds. I'll do it. Never do anything right. I got it.
No. So like me
Hold the goddamn
being a
flashlight.
That's all you can do.
Dude, I'm a control freak because I think my mom, you know, even like it's so crazy. I was at, you know, like my mom, she's Korean and she's a freak, you know, mega. They have this tiger mom terminology, you know. They chase you around the house, beating you with everything because you're not perfect and whatever. You know, I don't know what the vibe is,
Right,
but
sure.
that's how my vibe was, you know.
For sure.
So that kind of, even the other day we're there, I made a bunch of kimchi, you know, and she's like, oh, let me see how bad it is, you know. It's like my son's like looks at me like, I was like, I told you, you know.
You haven't talked shit.
Next time she comes, she brings jars like this big of kimchi, you know, which I'm hyped because her kimchi's the best.
Right.
It is the best. I'd rather eat hers than mine. But she's like, oh, I brought like some jars for you, and so we don't have to eat yours. My mom, you know, this is like a month and a half ago, bro. So it was like a tough crowd at my house, you know.
That is hilarious.
So anyway, I was like vibey, you know. Meaning, you know, like I think when I got that Forbes article, my dad's like, "Oh, I'm proud of you." I was like, "Sick."
You're like, man, that felt as good as I thought it would.
Right.
Just took a Forbes article, but I'm hyped, you know. no biggie.
110,
Sick.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad it happened
No big
because
deal.
you know it's like that was an easy thing to get.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, for everyone, you know. So after that whole thing with the show me your jar and really like, I wanted to see what was up with the lights because the vibes were sick, the people were sick, everyone I met at the company was dope. And when I looked at the light,
Speaking of, we are sitting under one of our models, the A3i, just in case they're going to zoom in on this for a few seconds so you can get into it. But this is the model we are currently sitting under as he's referencing one of our fixtures.
yeah, which is
They can
basically
use
the
this.
most badass fixture I think there is that exists, really, because we've used a lot of the fixtures, and this one just, there's no ceiling on what it can do. And meaning the only thing that's going to limit you is you and your ability to read the plant and your ability to understand what's happening, you know?
Yeah, and what percentage do you actually keep your lights at? This is a key one.
That's a good question.
Oh, I start at the lowest and I work my way up, never to the highest.
Yeah, and we were talking about this yesterday, John and I were, and there's like two types of growers at a commercial level. And they can switch equipment, they can do whatever very easily, or they can't. And it's because you got guys that only look at the metrics of their environmental controls, like it's got to be 78, the EC is 2.0, and they just do this for every plant, every genetic, whatever it may be, but they don't understand it's got to be looking at the plant, right? We have all this cool equipment for the plant. And John will sit there, doesn't matter what lights or equipment he's running, he'll just go, yep. Lights need to be turned down. You need to increase the feeding. You got to change the top dressing. He knows exactly what to do just by looking at the plant. Some guys look at their rooms. Some guys look at the plants. Guys that look at their plants and know how to actually move and adapt to their plants go, oh, this thing can take more light, then it can take more water, and they just keep feeding and pushing appropriately, and they can actually see the growth that's happening. Those guys are the guys that can crush anywhere, everywhere on the planet, and the other guys are going to struggle unless they've got their strain and their equipment. They're hindered to that HPS setup or that, whatever it may be. So it's hard for a lot of people to replicate, that same thing over and over again, or being able to read the plant or read the room. Make sure you hire a grower that knows how to read the plant.
Being able to do both, I'm sure, is important. But as we go back to what we said with having a relationship and being one with the plant is the most, because it's almost like your duty to take care of the plant. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to by only knowing the room, you're actually not catering to the plant. You're not giving it what it's,
Yeah. He's dialing his room into the plant. People, you just let the plant try to dial itself into the room that they've set up. And then the plant's trying to fight through all the stressors, and you're like, it's yellow
Make it convenient
tipped
for
and
the plant and everything
purple
else
all
will
the way
come.
through the fucking stems, and you're like, this thing is not happy. You're like, you should change some stuff. No.
It's good.
It's gonna crush.
We always do this. Wait till week 6 or 7. I'm like, this thing's
That's
not
the
going to
problem.
crush.
You always do this. That's what we're trying to get away from. Is
Well, and that's the thing is it's like with anything. I mean, it's not like you give a baby like steak, here, eat this steak. You're like, dude, like, doesn't need much, right? Don't need sun. Don't need much, just need love, So it's like, hey, guess what? Everything's the fucking same. Everything just needs love. What's love? Oh, it's the wish for something to be happy. Not like happy, sad, happy, like enlightened, happy, actually what they mean, but it's like, that's like real love, When you can tell if you have kids or whatever, dog, what you're feeling for what you want for that being, you're like, oh man, I have a lot of patience, Really, with this dude, he can be whatever, do whatever, say whatever. I'm like, fucking cute.
Cute. Like, when he's hungry, when he needs a hug. You're like, you're always just catering to him, just like the plants. You're like, all right, you're looking at that thing and you're like, I love this thing, and it looks like it really needs.
She looks like she's dying right now.
Kind of like energy like it needs. Yeah, again, he can just look at it and he knows exactly what he's got to do. Like, he's
it takes
one
a
of
lot
the
of-
only guys that you can handle. Like we gave him a piece of equipment and we're like, don't turn it on. He's like, I got it. It's like,
I'll talk to you in 2
tell
weeks.
me to turn it on. I'm like, it's that. He's like, dope. And he just calls me on. He's literally crushed. I'm like,
done.
yeah. He was like,
Well,
it's
that's
perfect.
the thing is it's like, for me, my ideology, I'm just trying to see what's outside and its similarities, and its conditional nature that I can replicate, so it's like, that's the beauty of like the 3 phases of even the spectrums, you can switch things up and do certain aspects of spectrum alteration to match, a cloudy day, a sunny day, a midsummer day, a nice low light fall day. Like, and if you're not doing that kind of stuff, are you really crop steering? You know.
I love the voice change for the two.
Are you really crop steering?
Crop steering is a funny word, as we've been doing it for like since we've been ever growing weed, because I mean, I thought that's what you do. You're manipulating a plant indoors to do something it can't do outdoors, actually.
Exactly.
But you're using all the conditions from the outdoors, and then you're using all the conditions from the indoors to make some special product.
To manipulate,
you know?
Yeah. So before we get away, I have two more points that I wanted to touch on. So let's talk on the FOS collaboration. With what do we have going on here? Let's give them some insight. What do we have?
I think that's all in the works right now. Really, there's a lot of big future and a lot of really cool things. Really, the most pressing thing that we're on together is this NGO project with the Wells of Dharma thing, and it's, you know, really moving forward well. It seems like it's a really, you know, epic way to start something really big, besides the lighting relationships and what we've been doing with them with that, and with you guys with that. Really, it's my idea with this is I really just want to show that we can take the best equipment and the best practices and make something special together that can really show what you can do that's undeniable. And we're still waiting for someone to bring the jars like that.
We see the jars on the table.
Will destroy these jars, and we just haven't seen it yet. And we want it because we want to hang with those people and smoke their weed and roll hash joints of their weed, because they're probably gonna be sick, cool people. Every fucking, you know, like doing the lifestyle thing and the way we all like to see it, meaning helping, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
It's a great goal.
So, I mean, before we exit out of here, I mean, I know I would love to hear from you, Ben. I know we all work as a collective, you know, with helping and pushing the mission forward. But what do you see for the future of organics? What do you see for the future of psychedelics and the road of self-improvement?
well, like what I say with everything, this spiritual path, you know, as we call it, meaning the path of realism of humanity, you know, I think more is a thing. Really, the hardest part of it is going to be the self-honesty, being aware of ourself in the picture. So utilizing these plants to get us to expose ourself to our mind and our subtle mind and our awareness. You know, we all notice this thing that can watch us acting like a fool, right? Yeah. I mean, we all see it, right? Like, so what's that thing, you know? Why not be in that thing instead of that thing acting like a fool? Right. That the thing that can see doing. So really to get in tune with that, like I said, you know, like from my own experience, until you realize you're low, you know, like my teacher said, he gave me this pith instruction. Pith instruction means something that you can utilize in all aspects of your life, whatever, you know. I was feeling kind of down, you know. Some business things were, you know, I was being kind of taken advantage of or screwed over in some ways. He's all, when you're feeling low, just focus on people lower than you. So when you're feeling high, focus on people higher than you. You know, you focus on someone like the Dalai Lama or some like, you know, really hard to feel cool, you know. Yeah. Really hard, you know. And you focus on some of the people that we're helping in India even, it's really hard to feel like you're without.
100%.
Sure. What about you, Ben? What do you see? I mean, now from your perspective, I know it's interesting because you have LED, cultivation, obviously all that we do in-house, and then you have the organics, you have Green Bodhi, we have Cantwell. What do you see for the future of all of us being able to positively impact the market, the industry with quality products, quality practices, philosophies? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think John kind of alluded to it too. We're kind of hammering out how we can kind of bring this message and mission to the masses a lot more than we have done so thus far. One being, how do we bring John into, like, you know, our hort team and, you know, really kind of help anyone and everyone who's got an organic living grow using FOS or, you know, not using FOS. How do we help you maximize your cultivation? And obviously we know John's got, I mean, how many decades of practice, and, you know, it's time to kind of expand on what he can do for the horticultural side of the FOS team. as well as obviously the wills for Dharma. And then there's just so much more coming, but you know, we're still working on a lot of fun other projects on the side. So a lot of stuff on the East Coast. It's going to be a lot of fun. So,
well, we look forward to having you back again. I know with you in the future, being a part of our horticulture team, I would love to do some more features and love to, you know, document you educating and sharing that philosophy, because I think it's very, very important. And I think in the time of where we are in the world now, self-discovery, self-improvement, and self-preservation and improvement are both key, because you're supposed to preserve the good parts of you, but you're also supposed to keep improving, so you're never the same, you know? So I would love to have you back and document some of that and
For sure.
sit down with you.
I would love
you
to.
With us?
Yeah, man, I'm so down, because, you know, we still got a lot of psychedelic talk to go over.
Absolutely. We still got that too. We still have the whole
right around the corner, baby. So
we got about 3 more episodes of Mr. Bodhi, but at least for now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that something he said today has challenged you to think better, to think different, and to think positively towards the future and how you can impact it to make it better than how it was before you got here. So, Mr. Bodhi, thank you for your influence. Thank you for the wisdom you shared with us today, and catch the podcast every Friday. I know we've been off a couple of weeks. We've had Hall of Flower last week. We had G4 Live actually last week, and Hall of Flower week before that. But we will be back on the horse. Catch it every Friday on FOHSE.com. That's FOHSE.com. Follow us on Instagram at FOHSE.inc, as well as on LinkedIn. And Mr. Bodhi, where can they follow you?
Green Bodhi Genetics, and the real Green Bodhi on IG, and then Green Bodhi on pretty much every other thing, Twitter, whatever. You know, come get in the DMs. Let's rap out about whatever. You know?
And for those that want to learn more about his practices and his philosophies online, go to greenbodhi.org. That is greenbodhi, BODHI.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. We've had fun, and I hope you enjoy this episode by the time it reaches your ears and your eyes. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you next week, and welcome to the future. Appreciate it.